So, what if the goal of spirituality isn't actually to escape the world, but to embrace it? We're about to dive into a philosophy that kind of turns spiritual seeking on its head, one that asks us not to change a thing, but to accept absolutely everything. A lot of us think of spiritual paths as a way to get above the messiness of everyday life. The thinking often goes something like this: life on earth is just so miserable, so painful, that the only real goal is to find a way out, right? To reach for heaven or some kind of liberation from it all. And look, this isn't just some casual idea. The famous philosopher Albert Schweitzer actually called Indian religion life negative. He argued that its main goal was to reject the world. And honestly, if you look at a lot of spiritual traditions, you can kind of see what he was getting at. But there's a huge exception to this life negative view. A figure so radical in his approach that he stands almost completely alone. And that exception is Krishna. His whole philosophy isn't about escaping life, it's about embracing it. It's all based on this idea of total, unconditional life acceptance, just absorbing everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, without any judgment. So, this idea of total acceptance, it gets even more amazing when you see just how radically different it is from other spiritual masters. The contrast is, well, it's pretty stark, and it really shows you how unique this whole philosophy is. On one hand, you have many great figures pointing towards heaven or liberation from this world, seeing it as something you have to overcome. But Krishna's philosophy, it celebrates this world completely. He doesn't denounce it, he dances with it. He stands as this powerful symbol of celebration, right in the middle of all of life's sorrow and struggle. So it's not about an escape from the desert, but an oasis within it. It's like finding this pocket of total joy right in the middle of the chaos. Now, this philosophy of total acceptance, well, it leads to some really fascinating and, let's be honest, challenging paradoxes. It forces us to look at parts of life we'd probably prefer to ignore, starting with a really difficult one. And this is a big one: Krishna's role in the great war of the Mahabharata. I mean, how can someone who embodies total acceptance also stand on a battlefield and tell a warrior to go out and fight? It seems like a huge contradiction. It's pretty easy to understand a pacifist, and it's also pretty easy to understand a warmonger. Why? Because each one has just rejected one half of reality. But Krishna, he refuses to make that simple choice, and that's what makes his philosophies so challenging. See, for Krishna, peace and war aren't opposites you have to choose between. They're just inseparable parts of life's totality. To deny one is to deny life itself. Real acceptance means you have to acknowledge that life flows through both of those doors, and that to be truly peaceful, you have to accept the reality of conflict too. This whole idea of accepting life's difficult pairs, well, it extends to another core spiritual concept: renunciation, or as it's known, sannyas. And here again, Krishna's philosophy just flips the conventional idea completely on its head. Okay, so normally when we hear the word renunciation, what do we think of? It's usually something you do when you're miserable, right? You're unhappy with the world, so you leave it all behind. It's an act that comes from pain and just wanting to get away. But Krishna's sannyasis is born not from sorrow, but from an overwhelming sense of joy. The idea is that your inner bliss becomes so incredibly full that all those worldly attachments, they just fall away on their own. Not because you push them away, but because you've just, well, outgrown them. So this all brings us to the ultimate goal of this philosophy: achieving a state of egolessness. And once again, the path to get there is both paradoxical and really profound. This slide just illustrates it perfectly. Most spiritual paths suggest negation. That's the path on the left, where you're slowly chipping away at the ego. But Krishna's path is expansion, on the right. You don't destroy the I, you expand it until it contains absolutely everything. Just think about it for a second. The concept of I can only exist if there's a you or a thou, right? It needs something to be separate from. So when your sense of self expands so much that it embraces the entire universe, well, there's no other left. And when the thou disappears, the I just dissolves. And the result of all this is a state of true bliss. But it's not about being happy all the time. It's about a kind of choiceless acceptance where you receive life's joys and its sorrows with the same calm. It's about seeing life not as a problem you have to solve, but as a total celebration to be lived. And this leaves us with a really profound final thought to chew on. What if becoming whole doesn't mean filling ourselves up with good things and trying to get rid of the bad? What if it means embracing a kind of divine emptiness, a state of total, choiceless acceptance where we finally become one with everything?